Thank you for joining me at Leadership Lessons from Scriptures. I'm Shalini. Last time, we were talking to Dr. Reg Grant. Dr. Grant is the chairman of Media Arts and Worship Department at Dallas Theological Seminary. He graduated from Texas Tech. Then he went to Dallas Theological Seminary, where he received his master's in pastoral ministry and then a doctorate in theology in Bible exposition. He is also senior professor at Dallas Seminary, where he teaches homiletics, drama, voice, creative writing, and creative radio production. Dr. Grant is a published author, actor, and producer. His book Storm is a historical fiction on the life of Martin Luther. I would highly recommend you to read that book. Dr. Reg Grant co-authored the book Telling Stories to Touch the Heart: How to Use Stories to Communicate God's Truth. If you're a public speaker, or if you want to be effective in your communication, read this book. You will learn how you can get the audience's attention and hold it. On the day of the interview, Dr. Reg Grant was in New York, so he talked to us over a phone call. I asked him how we could cultivate creativity. He gave us a simple tool to cultivate creativity. That is, to read outside our subject area for 15 minutes a day. Another thing he taught us was to see who our team members will become as God changes their lives. He encouraged us not to see others as how they are today, but to see their potential as God builds them. Let us pick up our interview with Dr. Reg Grant. The question you will hear is in the context of our fear to give space to our team to be creative, the fear we have to give freedom when the stakes are high. Here is Dr. Reg Grant. Dr. Grant, what if this Christian leader is in a high-risk environment? What if he or she may lose money or may go bankrupt if they don't follow a very strict protocol? What if the team member fails? How do they create space for them to be creative in a high-risk environment?
I think that there are no guarantees when you're working with people. There are no guarantees of financial success. We have to be careful and good stewards of the resources that God has entrusted us with. At the same time, if we are going to encourage people to become all that they are designed to be, we have to allow room for failure. We have to allow them the luxury of attempting something, failing, and then not coming down hard on them. We can help them learn from their failures, but if we don't allow room for failure on the part of our employees and the people that we are working with on our team, then that's a reflection of my not allowing failure in my own life. If I tend to be perfectionistic, if I tend to say I want to dot every I and cross every T before I make a decisive creative move, or before I make a move to allow a person to experiment, to try out an idea that has no guarantee of success, then it reflects on my own inability and my own insecurity. I may be relying too much on walking by sight rather than walking by faith. We have to balance that with an understanding that what God has entrusted to each of us varying degrees of responsibility. Financial fiduciary responsibility are part of the responsibilities that He has given to team leaders. And I want to allow that to govern my choices in terms of the amount of risk that I allow my employees or my team members. But I have to be able to give them some flex, some freedom to experiment, and the freedom to fail is one of those basic freedoms that I have to be willing to grant them if I want to see them flourish and grow into all that God has designed them to be.
Thank you. Dr. Grant, I'm going to jump to the next question. And this is from the point of view of a team member and not a team lead. So I'm a Christian. I understand that I made in the image of God. And I also understand that I can cultivate creativity. But I am working as a bank teller, or maybe I'm working in the call center answering phone calls, or maybe I'm a frontline salesperson. My job is just routine and very methodical. So, how can I cultivate creativity in my job where there is no room for creativity?
I think one of the most helpful things that you can do is to abandon the idea that regardless of the job that you have, that there's no opportunity for creativity. There's opportunity for creativity in any job that you have. It just depends on how you find it and then how you package it and employ it. I would recommend that for the person who is in a regular secular job with no obvious avenue for creativity, to pick up a couple of books by a fellow named Roger von O.E. The books are A Kick in the Seat of the Pants and A Whack on the Side of the Head. Roger von Ock was contracted by people at 3 and other West Coast burgeoning enterprises to come in and teach their employees, all of whom were in workaday jobs and not necessarily involved in an environment that would encourage creativity. They asked Von Ock to come in and teach them how to be creative in what was essentially viewed as a non-creative environment. And he comes in, and he had a marvelous track record with these companies. He keeps getting hired to come in and transform companies and help them to be more productive by showing them that they have opportunities for creativity that they've never seen before. Both of those books will help the person in a regular secular job come to a realization that they have opportunities for creativity that they may not have seen yet, and show them how to take advantage of that and be more productive in the workforce.
Dr. Grant, my last question. Is there any spiritual benefit to bringing creativity into our work life, whether we are in a secular field or in a Christian work environment?
I think the greatest benefit is that by becoming more creative, and we're talking about a sanctified creativity. It's not a no rules kind of creativity. We wouldn't want that kind of creativity. We want the kind of creativity that's governed by the character of Christ. I think that the major spiritual benefit is that as you exercise the creative gift that God has given you, you become more like Christ. You open doors that allow him to enter into that part of your life, that compartment of your life, and show you how the door that was closed really needs to be open all the time. And you start this gradual transformation process where you leave the door open, you knock down the walls that are isolating you in your job, your family, your worship, and all of a sudden you start to see this integrating principle that informs all of the arts as they relate to my development personally as a Christian, that allows the Lord Jesus to come into my life and transform my life. I think one of the books that's the best to study along this line is the book of John, the Gospel of John, especially beginning in chapter 5. The Lord Jesus himself said, beginning in 5 and it's 19 around in there, he says, I never did anything that I didn't see the Father doing first. I never said anything that I didn't hear the Father speak first. The Lord Jesus was, in that sense, in the best sense of the word, a great actor because he represented or represented God the Father to his disciple. That was one of his primary objectives in coming, so that by the end of his ministry, you got Philip in the upper room saying, well, okay, Lord, just, show us the Father and it'll be enough. And Jesus said to him, if I've been with you this long and you don't know, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So this idea of being creative, of opening up our lives to the influence of God's Spirit in molding us and shaping us into the person of the Lord Jesus, we wind up looking a lot like Jesus spiritually by God's grace. And that comes not by asserting my independence, but by yielding to the control of his spirit and his molding and shaping influence so that I actually become more like my Lord. That's a creative process. It happens day by day, doesn't happen all at once, so that the more we mature, the more we become like Christ as we yield to the control of his spirit. I think that's the primary benefit, is becoming more like Jesus Christ.
I never thought of that. The whole idea, I mean, I have the metaphor of, he's the potter and we are the clay, but just never thought of what a beautiful spiritually creative activity that is for God to mold us and change us. the creativity that comes from change. Wow. Dr. Grant, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a delight to talk with you. Always a pleasure to talk with you, Shalini. So you call me anytime.
Thank you. And I absolutely adore you and love you, Dr. Grant.
Well, the feeling is mutual. You have a great day there. I wish I could bring some of this weather back with me.
Oh, wow. Yes, sir. And have a safe flight back home.
Okay, we will. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Wow. That was a fabulous time with Dr. Reg Grant. There is another interview with Dr. Reg Grant on YouTube. Heather Goodman interviewed Dr. Grant on art and theology. I highly recommend that video. If you want a direct link to that video, you will find it on our website, www.irna-group.com. Also, on our website, you will find links to all the books that Dr. Reg Grant mentioned in this interview as a resource for you in your endeavor to cultivate your creativity and your team members' creativity. Thank you for joining me at Leadership Lessons from Scriptures. If you would like to learn more about biblical and values-based leadership, visit our website or call us at 469-467-8798. Visit our website at www.irene-group.com. Yes, the link to Heather Goodman's interview with Dr. Reg Grant is there on our website. Connect with us on Facebook at Leadership Lessons from Scriptures and tell us how you build your creative capacity. We would love to hear from you and engage with you on these platforms so that others too can benefit from our conversation.